Welcome back to the Stoic Cellist. In the previous episodes, we talked a little about me and my relationship with Stoicism, and got a very basic outline of Stoicism and its history. This episode, I'll start exploring what it actually means to apply Stoic principles to being a musician and practicing. To begin, let's talk about practicing itself. What does it mean to practice? Speaking from my own experience, this is a question a lot of musicians and music students have never truly asked themselves. What is practicing? It's practicing. It is approached with varying degrees of determination, enthusiasm, dread, and weariness, like a duty you don't like having but have resigned to do because the alternative is worse. It is measured in minutes and hours, with more being better. When dread and weariness wax, you find yourself cleaning underneath the toilet bowl for the first time in months, so you can procrastinate just a little longer and avoid facing that passage in that excerpt. It is toil. It is drudgery. It's frustration writ large, highlighting your failures as a musician in stark contrast to how you ought to play. It's a grim reminder of the fact that you don't yet have a job, while more and more of your classmates are getting where you want to be. This was my life in a nutshell, until I remembered and started applying my Stoic reading to the work I was doing. Let's introduce an important Stoic idea. Don't worry about the future, or what others are doing. Instead, only be a bit better than you were yesterday. This statement has two component parts, both of which apply in different ways to the fundamental question: what is practicing? Comparing yourself to others, or your expectations for yourself, is nothing but a recipe for frustration and despair. While it is certainly important to have goals and ambitions, fixating on the end product will only distract you from where you are and what you are doing right now. Remember Yoda trying to train Luke as a Jedi? Luke is given exactly the same lesson. Similarly, concerning yourself too much with the doings of other people inevitably leads to any mixture of frustration, jealousy, and personal inadequacy. After all, what does it matter what someone else has accomplished or can do? What does that have to do with your own work? Be glad for their success, because they are facing the same world that you are. And success is difficult to find even when you are beginning from an ideal position. All of those thoughts and feelings you get from this comparison only distract and waste precious time and energy from doing the work that needs doing. How does this manifest in practicing? Trying to play the finished product and being frustrated when it inevitably doesn't work. Playing it 20 more times, and the same thing going wrong every time. Trying harder, and things getting even worse. Being angry or despairing that you can't do it right. Why can't I play this right after all these years? I must be an awful musician if I'm still struggling to play this after all this time and work. If you're cringing a bit, you're likely recognizing something of yourself in this description. It's an easy trap to fall into, especially in such a stressful and competitive field as music. Expectations are high and only getting higher. The pressure to be flawless is intense, and never mind that this is literally impossible. Combine that with the fact that auditions require an inhuman level of execution and preparation, and it's no wonder that so many of us fall into these patterns. So it is when you're always looking far to the future, and looking at your colleagues with jealousy. Let's move to the better alternative. This brings us back to the very first question of the episode. What does it mean to practice? Why are we practicing? We've talked about practicing that isn't helpful, that only serves to cause frustration and despair. Perhaps, to emphasize the point, we can coin a new term: helpful practice. This could be defined as to accept the state of your playing today and work to improve it just a little. The contrast is stark. Mindless repetition, banging your head against a wall, driving yourself insane one passage at a time, versus honestly assessing the state of your excerpt or concerto and deciding what you can do today to improve something. It's frustration and despair and doubt stemming from statements like, "This should be better," versus incremental but steady improvements from statements like, "What can I do in 10 minutes to make this passage a bit better?" The Stoic approach takes patience and honesty, but it will pay off, whether in a matter of days, or weeks, or months. If you are consistent and make sure you engage in helpful practice every time you pick up your instrument, you can't not improve. The improvement may be slow and at times not obvious, but every day you spend being a bit better than the last is a day you've spent truly learning and improving instead of mindlessly repeating the things that don't work and frustrate you. That kind of conscious and incisive learning will stay with you forever. It's never too late to start, and if you have spent a long time feeling as though you're stuck on a plateau, you'll be shocked at how much potential you can unlock if you just ask yourself, what does it mean to practice?